Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the December 5th Post Falls City Council meeting. Shannon, please note that all council members are present. Tonight we have no ceremonies, announcements, appointments, or presentations. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
There are none tonight, sir.
Do we have any declarations of conflict? Would you please present the consent calendar?
Item A is minutes from the November 21st, 2023 City Council meeting. Item B is payables November 14th through November 27th, 2023. Item C is the Diatley Annexation Agreement File, ANNX-23-1. Item D is the fiscal year 2023 road report. Item E is the Bogey Annexation Agreement, ANNX-23-2. Item F is the fixed asset disposal of the Zebra ID badge printer asset 4652. Item G is the Fleet Division request to surplus vehicles and equipment. Item H is acceptance of the canvassed election results. Item I is the Millsap Landing Annexation Agreement File number ANNX-22-16. And item J is acceptance of a sewer easement for West Steel.
Any questions on the consent calendar?
I'd move for approval of the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion seconds. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Thorson,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next on the agenda tonight is public hearings, and we have none, followed by unfinished business, returning ordinances and resolutions. We have one item, the Black Bay Phase 1 construction agreement.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Robbie Quinn, Parks Planner, and I'm here seeking council's approval on two separate agreements relating to the Phase 1 construction for the Black Bay Park improvements. So I know we've been working on this project for many years, so I'll keep this fairly brief. But in summary, kind of looking at Phase 1, we're generally focusing on the lower kind of parking area in the bay. So we'll have a new entrance, arrival, and shelter down at the corner of the parking lot here, which will also include regrading of that lower lawn area and hillside to help with some drainage and erosion control issues. We'll be reconstructing the entire trail from the parking lot all the way to the beach to meet ADA standards. And while down there, we'll also be redoing the beach surfacing as well as some erosion control issues at the beach. We'll be adding a boardwalk and a floating dock, and then addressing erosion control issues throughout the bay in various locations. And so this project was put out to bid September 26th, and then we had the bid opening about a month ago on November 9th. So we received one bid from Big Sky Idaho Corp for $2,558,956, which came in about $209,000 over our engineer's estimate, which that estimate was produced over a year ago. So being within 10%, we felt pretty good about that. And so after our Dura's review, which is our consultant as well as city staff, we recommend awarding the contract to the low responsive bidder, Big Sky Corp. In addition, we're also seeking 5% contingency for any unforeseen circumstances that could come up with this project. And so the total ask for the construction would be $2,686,913.25. And this would be paid for out of the park impact fees, the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant that was before you last month, and as well as the Park Trust. And so that's kind of the first portion of this presentation.
Robbie, quick question for you.
Yeah.
In light of the increased costs we've seen for obvious reasons since 2022, how comfortable are you with 5% contingency? Is that enough?
I would hope so, but this project, there's a lot of unique elements, so it's really hard to say until they kind of get in. The main one is really the boardwalk. That's where we don't really know for certain. There could be some costs with that, but I think everything else we should be pretty close on. Obviously, we'd come back to you if something did come up
thank you.
over those costs. And so the second portion is the consultant, admin, and observation contract with Civitas, who again is our design consultant on this project. And so that'll include submittal reviews, pay app reviews. On site, they'll be basically there every day overviewing materials testing, quantity tracking, and as well as construction staking. And so this contract would be for $220,120. And again, there are, like I mentioned, a lot of unique elements with this project. We have 2 different structurals with the boardwalk piles, the shelter, and the retaining walls. There's an architectural component with the shelter, civil with the trail and the grading, and the boardwalk. So there's a lot of oversight that needs to be involved with this project. And so just to summarize, with these 2 contracts, we're asking for approval for $2,907,33.25. And again, $400 of that paid out of Park Trust, and the remaining $202.5 out of impact fees and the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant.
How much was the grant again? I have a short memory.
$750, yes.
Thank you.
So with that.
Any other questions, Robbie? I just think this, I remember we went through this whole process of park design and meeting with Civitas, and that seems like it was a long, long time ago.
Yeah, it started before I was here, so over 5 years ago.
Yeah, so it's
I thought
nice,
you were going to say before you were born. And I was going to go, no.
so it's nice to see
No,
it moving forward.
not that long ago.
Any comments, questions?
No, but thank you.
It's the master plan.
Yeah.
I
It'd be
think
nice to see it
it's,
move forward. I would move to approve the Black Bay Phase 1 construction agreement.
Second.
Motion seconds, further discussion. Roll call, please.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Motion passes, thank you. Thanks,
And
Robbie.
one thing, if I could mention, I know I mentioned this before, but since it's on televised again, the majority of the lower park will be closed next year during construction, just for people at home that may be watching. The upper park will be open, but we are going to close the majority of the lower park.
Okay.
Which
Thank
is the
you.
water access.
Yes.
Okay.
So it'll be a challenge keeping people out, but well, that'll be on the contractor.
Next item, new business. We have 4 different items. First is the 2023 proposed update to the Post Falls Code Chapter Wastewater Discharge Restrictions.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Craig Bornpole, Utilities Manager for the city. First item I'm going to be discussing with you tonight is our wastewater discharge restrictions, our city code which covers our industrial pretreatment requirements, and some needed updates to those. If you remember, we went through this about a year and a half ago, based on some review by DEQ. Since then, they have come back and conducted another audit of our program. They identified a couple smaller things, and so we need to do a very similar process of allowing the public to review and comment, but it doesn't have to go through a full public review process. The process for these code updates, I'll provide the general information. The draft ordinance was included in the council packet. We are open to any comments either from council or general public, and we will bring back the full ordinance for adoption at a future meeting. As a quick reminder, the ABCs of our pretreatment program, the reason we have a pretreatment program is really to protect several items. One is our staff and employees who work at the water reclamation facility. We don't want any dangerous chemicals or explosives coming in, so we're restricting what comes in. Protecting our process, if bad chemicals get in there and upset the biology, that can really inhibit our ability to treat the wastewater. And then also make sure we're not allowing something to pass through, which would go directly to our discharge in the Spokane River, which could be bad as well. So we have delegated authority for a pretreatment program, and the restrictions and all the authorities there are included in Chapter 1320 of the City Code. So proposed changes, again, why now? DEQ conducted a follow-up audit of our pretreatment program. They identified a couple of small things. I will say that the numbers are getting smaller, so I hope that is indicative of our improvement in the program. But we still need to make those changes, and so we're bringing forth those to you tonight. The first item includes removing some verbiage from the accidental spill prevention plan section. Federal code requires that dischargers notify us immediately if there is an accidental spill or discharge into the system. In our existing code, we had immediately but no later than 24 hours. They did not like the inclusion of that no later than 24 hours. So we are striking that from the accidental spill prevention plan section. The other items are related to contents which need to be included in a discharge permit. We currently have 3 permits for regulated entities, and looking at the items that need to be in those permits, one is the addition of the ability to enforce on best management practices, so including that in the verbiage. And the other is ensuring that dischargers are aware of the process to request a waiver. I think I spoke quite a bit last time about the value of waivers, that it makes it easier for the dischargers and us, for those who qualify. The permit needs to include the process to apply for those waivers. So included in section 1320-230 is those changes for both of those items. So that's the general information on the changes. Like I said, they, I think, are smaller than last time, which is hopefully a good sign for us. We're willing to take comments, and I think the intent is to bring this back to the next council meeting, being that there are minor comments for adoption of those ordinances.
Any questions for Craig?
Has to be.
I would move to approve the 2023 proposed update to Post Falls Code Chapter 13.20 wastewater discharge restrictions and direct staff to bring back an ordinance to a future council meeting.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Shove,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Borders,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next up is solids hopper rehabilitation.
Good evening again. Craig Bornpole, Utilities Manager for the city. I have the next 2 items. They're related, so I've lumped them together into one presentation, and then we can hopefully move through both of them a little bit quicker. So presenting on this is our solids hopper modification. I'll go through kind of some very basics of what that equipment is and what the related contracts to this are. So this is kind of a satellite image of our facility, and I've talked before about quite often we're so focused on the water that leaves the facility, we forget that there are other items that leave. And we generate solids as part of our treatment process. Those are hauled off-site for beneficial use by a third party. We take the solids that are generated, we press them into a cake, store them in what we call our hopper building, and that third party has a loadout truck that they use, and they load it out from that hopper. So we're really trying to isolate those solids in that hopper. It removes it from, we used to store them out in the air underneath this, the largest building kind of oriented east-west, out in the air, and that caused odor problems. And being good neighbors, we designed this, the hopper building, which has been in operation for about 8 years now, trying to, like I said, isolate those before they're hauled off-site for beneficial use. This is looking at the north side of that building. The truck that is there is not the one that's used to haul it off. The truck that's there, we've been placing there to catch some, for lack of a better term, some sloppage that comes out of this hopper. There is an auger that moves the solids when we're operating it, and we found that after that shuts down, there's still enough force on that it can kind of push it out and a little bit more. And so we're getting some on the ground, which is undesirable. And in the winter, this can cause problems because those solids in the auger can freeze. We've tried to start it up, and it has bent our auger. And so in trying to come up with a problem or a correction for this, we've tried several in-house solutions and finally decided we needed to bite the bullet and actively engage a consultant to provide their recommendations on how we can correct for this issue. So that's the project that is ongoing right now. This is kind of an awkward vision inside, but the big brown structure is that hopper with the biosolids in it. The silver structure is the load-out hopper with the blue motor on the bottom that spins the auger in here when the truck is loading out. So the solution that was arrived at is basically isolating this load-out auger from the hopper with some knife gate valves, which will close down, and then we can continue to run that auger, clear it out, and then it all shuts down, and there won't be any left in the auger. So the valves to do that are called a knife gate valve, and they are not inexpensive. This is kind of the engineering drawing that shows the valve placement between that load-out auger and our hopper. The knife gate valve purchasing now, we learned from our engineer there's about a 120-day lead time on those valves. So authorizing the purchase now would allow us to get that underway as we finalize design. And the cost of those valves necessitates that we come to council for approval before issuing a purchase order to do that. So the financials on those valves is $65,574.19 for 4 of those. So that's not per, but that would be for all 4. And that'll be funded through the Water Reclamation Facility Odor, Solids, and Dewatering Project. We have a line item in this year's budget to take care of some of these latent issues that we've been trying to get ahead of. The other item, the next item on the agenda, is for construction management services for that project when we get to the construction side of it. That is a contract with JUB Engineers, and that would provide for finalizing the design, bidding support, and construction oversight when we move into the construction phase. The financials for that are $67,690 for that contract. I'm requesting a 10% contingency in case we run into any challenges during that construction oversight, and that's funded through the same budget line item. Next steps, trying to finalize the engineering design. This says fall 2023. We're basically at the end of that, aren't we? We're wrapping up that design, hopefully ordering the knife valves, and then moving into bidding and construction once we have a firm landing date for those valves. So hopefully sometime next summer we'll be able to make the modifications. Any questions on either of those
Craig?
2 items?
Do you
Lynn?
have a guess, I guess, if you will, of the construction cost?
Yes, there is structural components, there is electrical components with the controls, and then there's some general, the actual turning of wrenches. And our engineer is estimating somewhere just south or just north of $200,000. That is a magic number. If it is below $200,000, we can do an informal bid, and that's the way we're leaning right now. We're going to send it out to 3 preferred contractors and say, are we crazy for trying to do this informally? And if they say yes, then we'll know it's probably going to be a little over $200,000, and we have to go to a formal bid. But that's their estimate right now.
So we're looking at about $350,000 total.
Out the door.
Any questions?
I'd move to approve the solids hopper rehabilitation knife gate valve purchase. Can you do this in 2 separate motions, or?
Feel, do we need 2, or can we do them in one?
I think you can do them in one.
And move to approve the solids hopper rehabilitation construction management services agreement.
Second. Motion seconds. Further discussion. Shannon, please take the roll.
Walker.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Ziegler.
Aye.
Shove.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item up is the police department pay grade, kinds, and level adjustments. Chief, you want me to lead this off? Sure. So it was brought to my attention that over the past several months we've been informed or learned that both Kootenai County and the Coeur d'Alene Police Department have increased their pay grades in their law enforcement, their sheriff's deputies and the Coeur d'Alene police officers. And we are somewhat significantly behind right now. I don't know if you remember, a couple months ago, we had a citizen testifying in a public hearing, and she was against a proposed project, and she said, we don't have enough police officers, and we've lost them, we're undermanned, and we can't get any police officers. And Chief was sitting, and I asked him, I says, is that the case? And he said, no, it's not. I think maybe we were down 2 people at the time.
Correct.
Since then, we've probably lost another 6?
11.
11. Several have gone elsewhere, and you hear, we didn't hear this for quite a while, but they've gone elsewhere for pay. Some as with any department, any business, sometimes you're okay when people leave, other times you don't want to lose people. And this was kind of probably a mix of both, but we're down 11 people. The police department's gone to 12-hour shifts to try to continue to provide the service that we've provided and to try to provide for the safety of our officers as well. So it's very difficult for us to go out and hire police officers when we're $4 or $5 an hour below what our neighboring agencies are paying. So this is something I think that we need to look at. I fully support. Is it going to be the solution to all issues? Probably not. But I think if we don't do it, we're going to find ourselves in significant need of additional police officers to the point that it'll be detrimental to the community. And so Chief's bringing it up, and I know staff has gone through and looked at numbers, and Jason will come up in a few minutes and talk about where the dollars will come from. But we wanted to bring it to council so we can try to take action, try to address this now, help us keep the people we have, help us attract new people to fill the positions that we have. So, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Council, Council President. Any questions?
I was going to say, that was a great
I didn't talk
presentation.
numbers.
No. So, yeah, I'm here to address the council to take into consideration amending our Post Falls Police Department's kinds and levels chart by 16% to make us more compatible, more competitive, to try and retain some of our current employees with our surrounding agencies, Coeur d'Alene and Kootenai County. Currently, right now, like I said, we're about 11 officers down. We've got 2 on FMLA. I've got 2 injured. We have detectives taking overtime shifts to try and help out with patrol. We've cut some services that I really don't want to do because we're really known for, supplying great services to this community. We have lieutenants that are coming in at 3 o'clock in the morning to cover some shifts. So we're working to try and take as much pressure off of these officers that have gone 12-hour shifts as possible. 12-hour shifts is not the ideal thing for a law enforcement officer. You get tired, you're going to work, going to sleep, getting up, stress on the family, which means stress in your life. So we're really working hard to try and resolve this issue as best we can. To recap some of your council documents, right now, like I said, we're 16% below Coeur d'Alene and Kootenai County. Starting wages for an entry level, and I'll explain what that is at county is $30.87 an hour. For Coeur d'Alene, it's $30.30 an hour. And for us, it's $26.38 an hour. If you guys move forward to propose this, that would put us up to $30.68 an hour for entry level, which is very competitive, which also helps draw on lateral officers as well. So
Chief,
the difference between...
that would make us competitive with the sheriff and Coeur d'Alene, but not with Spokane, correct?
Not with Spokane.
Yeah.
We
So I
will
think we
be
need
very
to-
difficult to be
Yeah.
competitive with Spokane. Entry-level officers, basically an officer straight off the street, a citizen straight off the street. No law enforcement experience. For them to become a police officer, they're going to have to attend POST, which is our Peace Officer Standards and Training, which is a 13-week program. If they're able to complete that academy, they come into our FTO program, which is our training program. So that is a 12-week program if they succeed. So a lateral officer is someone that's already certified. Either they're certified in the state of Idaho or they're certified in another state. If we hire those lateral officers, they are able to come in straight into our FTO program, which means in 12 weeks or less, I think the record is 4 weeks, they're able to get on the street and actually be a benefit to our schedule. Currently, we have 3 cadets in post, which are due to graduate, I think, Thursday. The soonest, once they graduate, that they can get out, like you said, is 12 weeks. We have 5 people that we have hired to attend post. They're entry level. And so that means by the time they get done with all of that, we're looking at 26 weeks before they're even able to come in and be a benefit to our schedule. As you can see from all that, we really want to target those lateral entry officers, or since the legislation has changed, it allows us to hire officers that have retired, and it doesn't affect their PERSI. They can still draw their retirement PERSI, and then they can come in and still work as a police officer and start over on the PERSI system. So those are the ideal that we really want to target. And I spoke to an individual that has a friend that is a county sheriff's deputy over in Spokane. They were aware of our issue of retaining officers and hiring officers and looking at the applications with us, Coeur d'Alene and Kootenai County. County deputy said, I wouldn't even stop in Post Falls to get an application because you can go a little bit further and make a lot more money. So like I said, we really want to target those lateral officers with the most benefit of getting them out a lot faster than we would with the entry level, but it just seems like we're not getting those, which makes me wonder how many laterals that we missed during our testing process because our wages were lower than the others. We had one officer that we just had given a offer for employment. He turned it down because he was going to go work for Coeur d'Alene. So I guess what I'm asking is for the consideration to really look at these kinds of level charts and move them up so we're more competitive. We can keep the officers that we have. Typically you see newer officers that are leaving, not the olders. When I spoke to a lot of the officers that were, some that had been here for a while, when I accepted their resignation, it wasn't because they wanted to leave the department, it's because they had to leave the department. They just financially could not afford to survive on what we were currently paying them. So in talking with our finance director, the funding for this would come from a personnel pool. So if you choose to move forward, then he can explain where basically some of that's coming from.
Thanks, Chief.
Any questions for me before finance director takes over?
I'd just like to point out that, you mentioned people going, cadets going through post, and then, the time frame it takes to get through post and then through the training. You spend a lot of time and money getting these folks up to speed.
Yes.
And what's tough is you bring folks in, you get them up to speed, you get them trained, and then they drive 5 miles for a fairly significant pay increase, so.
Right. And just for clarification, this 16% increase with a $6 cap would be for all certified officers excluding me. So it would be for anybody that's certified within our department as a police officer.
Thanks. Jason?
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Usually this is outside of the budget process. Usually what we do is during the budget process itself, we'll look at what Coeur d'Alene is paying for wages and also what Kootenai County is paying for PD officers. And at the time that it happened, they were on par with what we were, but the county had made a last minute adjustment in pay. So here we are. Normally this would, like I said, be part of the budget process. But when I first met with Greg and he was talking about there was a need, and I was looking in the payroll system, and he had at that time 11 officers, 10 officers, 10 vacant positions. I thought, yeah, there was an issue here. So we gathered the figures up. If we look at everybody getting the 16%, which was about $4.22, the percentage is a little higher than what the dollar amount actually is. $4.22 for a entry patrol, up to $6 per officer. Per hour depending on where they're at in their range, the max 6. The remainder of the year, this isn't a small ask, but after you add the wages and Percy, that's roughly $530,000 for the remainder of the year. We do have the funds budgeted, so I wouldn't have to do a budget amendment. It's in the personnel pool. So if council approves this, we could move forward with this without an amendment.
Questions of Jason?
So that, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
That increase amount includes all the empty or the vacant positions?
Yeah, it does, just because if he, I took it from starting in January, if he was able to fill the positions, they do get paid while they're in post, so they'd be at the bottom end, and so that we'd have the money budgeted and ready for whoever was either to come on board or if they were to go into the post-training system.
Lynn?
I just know that a lot of the departments are given sign-on bonuses for trying to attract the laterals like Chief McLean's explaining. So I think this is a great step in the right direction. We don't have that bonus there, but I think this will at least help people take a look at it.
Well, and over the last several years, we've looked at this situation, and with our police department, and we've taken steps to correct it. And we were competitive. and then you have the neighboring agencies that make the change, and especially with county after the budget process, and it's tough to compete, you know, and we need, in my opinion, I think we do need to do something to try to stem the flow and maintain what we have and continue to improve upon it. So, you know, I mention that because it's not chief trying to take care of his people and say, we'll try this, that, or the other thing. It's a real need that was created by neighboring agencies, in my opinion, so.
Right. What we try to do is when something like this happens, we look at the need, like I had said when we talked about it. We don't try to throw money at the problem at first. We try to address what it is. But then the county at the last minute went in and adjusted the salaries for the sheriff. Then we did have a crisis because officers were leaving.
Yeah.
Well, and with the disparity that large, I mean, most good employees aren't gonna leave over $1 an hour.
correct,
It's-
yeah.
But when it's $4, $5, $6,
Sure.
it's a no-brainer, really.
Karen? Excuse me.
Jason, will you clarify, you said the $530,000 would
Yes.
take you through the rest of the year?
Yes.
You're not meaning December 31st?
No, for the next
Yes.
budget, yeah.
I just wanted to clarify
That's
that.
okay. Yeah, it'd be through the end of September.
Yes.
Joe?
So we've discussed pay grade increases, et cetera before, and one thing that always concerns me is you get this, you've got a lot of neighboring governments, and then one person raises their rates and everybody floods to that one, so the next one raises their rates and everybody floods to that one, the next one raises their rates, and you get this, you know, kind of death spiral of pay rates that's just self-fulfilling with government. However, the wage, particularly I think of a starting police officer, has not nearly kept up with the cost of living in this area. You know, a mere 5 years ago, this was one of the bottom third cheapest places to live in the country, and now we're in the top third. So especially when you're talking about lateral transfers, you can't get somebody to come from Cottonwood to here because it's not going to be enough of a pay increase to be able to justify the expenses of living here. And it's not just law enforcement that's having that issue. You know, Kootenai Medical is having all kinds of problems keeping nurses and so forth in there because it's just too expensive to live here. So the local government death spiral aside, I think this is a good move anyway, regardless of what anybody else has done, just because of the cost of living that's occurred here, and we need to attract quality officers. You know, we've got 40% of the council turning over here in a couple of weeks, and so we don't know what future budgets look like, but even if future budgets can't support as many officers at the higher wage, there's nothing more expensive than turnover. So if we can prevent turnover and attract higher quality officers, even if, God forbid, we end up with fewer of them, I still think we're way ahead than staying, you know, $4 plus an hour behind everybody else and not keeping up with the cost of living in the area. So I would support this.
Anybody else? We need a motion, correct?
Correct.
I would move to approve the police department pay grade kinds and levels adjustments.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion. Roll call, please.
Borders,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Shove,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Borders. Who did I forget? Malloy.
Aye.
You're gonna let Lynn vote twice on a second to last meeting, huh?
Yeah.
Motion passes. Thanks. Chief Jason, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Next
thank
item
you.
up is citizens' issue, and this section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the council regarding a city-related issue that's not on the agenda. Seeing none. Followed by administrative staff reports, annual comprehensive financial report and GASB.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The last time we had talked about financial statements, there was a mention of the the negative interest, and that dawned on me that I haven't done a good job of explaining to council what that entails. Now, this is actually kind of exciting, and I really like this kind of stuff. So, in fact, I have handouts too, because it's kind of small. But the first one I wanted to talk about is there's 4 that have started GASB pronouncements, and GASB is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. And the PowerPoint's kind of small, so I'll give a handout. So you can see what I'm
Oh my gosh,
Which
that
is
is
also kinda
really
small.
small, Jason.
Yeah, I understand the PowerPoint's even smaller, but
Sheesh.
Just a guess, but that is 6-point type.
okay. I try to fit it all on one page, so.
I think we should look at bigger paper.
Excel's not made for printing.
Okay, so if you look at
You didn't have
the handout I
glasses
gave you, if you
on,
look
which
at page 1, it says Exhibit 1 be the last page. GASB 68 is about accounting and financial reporting for pensions. So what that means is the state runs the Percy retirement system. And everybody that's employed with the city of Post Falls is part of part of the Percy system. But the Percy system fluctuates each year, whether it's fully funded, not fully funded. So the GASB wants to have our Percy unfunded liability on each entities that owns a portion of the pension listed on the financial statements. So they have also created new items on the statement of net position, which we'll go over here in a minute. But if you look down about there's one that says net pension. Oh, okay, it's under liabilities, the very last line that says net pension liability right above total liabilities. That's the city's portion of the liability from Percy system for both governmental and the utility funds. So this fluctuates year to year. So the portion of Percy that's unfunded, the city's liability of it is $13.3 million. So they want to have, it's supposed to make everything easier. Instead of making it easier, so they have that portion on the city's financial statements. All the entities are supposed to do that as well. So if you look over Post Falls Urban Renewal District, which is a component unit for the city, their net pension liability is $66,000 because they have members that are part of the Percy system. So if you look at it this year's, it'll fluctuate. I don't know what those numbers are yet because they haven't done their actuarial report yet. But when I do 2023, that'll be on here as well. So it's supposed to simplify financial reporting. I don't know if it really does that or not. So we move on to GASB 72, which is the mark-to-market adjustments. If you go and look at Exhibit 2, which is the income statement, and you look almost in the bottom middle of the page, it says unrestricted investment earnings, and that's a negative number. You got to remember these financial statements are a snapshot in time. So if you look at what the city's investments are, which is the first page that I handed out, with it's very small. These are the city's investments on one of our accounts. So let's take the first one. If every June, this June, it's coming up, the city will get $27,500. That's what we hold on to it. So what the mark-to-market means, at the end of the year, the investment was less than what we purchased it for. But how these investments work is, if we hold the investment till it matures, we get our $2 million back on top of the interest. So the only time the mark-to-market would really hurt is if I sold the investment, which is not the plan. The plan is to hold it to maturity, so the mark-to-market really doesn't affect us. However, financial reporting, I have to mark down the investment at the time at the end of the year. So if you look at total on the bottom right corner for this of the investments, if I'm going to hold everything plus get the money back that we invested. So during 2024, this brokerage account will get $1.6 million just in interest alone. So, but they want to make it transparent. If I was to sell, that would happen. What would happen is we'd lose the investment, but I don't plan to sell. I keep holding it till the investment matures. So,
Jason, with the current rate environment, rates have gone up. If we sell, we're going to sell at a loss, correct?
Yes, some of these are that'd be the deal.
So,
yes.
Probably the only time we would sell is if we were in dire need of money, number one.
Correct.
Or number two is if rates dropped and we could recognize a big gain.
And we do
by
look
selling.
at those. If the investment has a low interest rate, we look to see what the cost would be if we were to sell it and reinvest it at the interest rate that we currently have in today's market.
How long it takes to recoup it.
Right, how long we take to recoup it, exactly. So we look at that, but as we currently stand, I don't plan on selling any of these investments, and so you get your principal back on and along with the interest that's agreed when you bought it. So.
We also do have an investment policy that's adopted by the council and is approved by the
GFOA.
and the Association of Public
APT, yep.
Treasurers. So.
Mm-hmm. So that's what the negative interest is during the end of the fiscal year, marking down the interest. You have to record it as a negative interest income, but that's not really what's going to happen. What's going to happen is when it hold the interest to maturity. So that's the GASB 72.
So whatever budget cycle it is that it comes to maturity, that's gonna be a positive number, right?
Right. We get interest along, like I said, during 2024 alone, we'll get 1.6 million in interest, but whether the investment goes up or down, at the maturity, we'll still get our principal back, plus the interest that they promised will be held onto it.
I follow. It's a miracle.
And they do it just to make it more simple.
Hey,
This feels a lot
it
simpler.
works, right?
Yeah.
Any questions? We don't need to take any action on that, correct, or do we need to
Nope,
accept?
this is just,
Nope. Just
all right,
informative?
now these next two, these are new ones. And leases has been addressed because, and there's two new categories on the Exhibit 1 where you look at, when I first went through accounting, it was assets, liabilities, and equity. Well, now they've added two categories of deferred outflows and deferred inflows. Leases will be what happens is with those leases, especially water and cell towers, water towers that we have a lease with those, and so we have future incomes based on the agreement we have with Patera, AT&T, Singular. So what they want is, they want to recognize on the face of the financial statements that we do have those incomes. So if you look down below, it will say deferred inflows of revenue, which is unearned lease contract revenue. General government has $169,000, and water and wastewater have $71,000 of unearned lease contract revenue. So they want to put that on the face of the financial statements as well. GASB 96, which is coming out for this year, which was more fun, it talks about IT-based information, subscription-based information technology arrangements, which means if we have any IT agreements that we're in the long haul to pay, they want to have that on the financial statements as well. And when you look at 2023, and I'm sure everybody will be pawing over that when I'm done, it will be a deferred outflow of resources. So the GASB likes to keep us guessing. So, and one question is, well, why do we keep doing these? Why do we implement this? Because it's implementing these changes and then submitting to GFOA for the award. That's why we continue to get the award, because we implement these changes. Oops, sorry.
Question about GASB 87 on the leases. Is
Okay.
that income based on the term of the lease contract, or?
Yeah, there's a lease contract that starts off at, say, that's maybe $2,500 a month, and it escalates over the years. It's a lot of them are 5-year agreements that renew in another 5 years, and they're maybe 20 to 30-year lease agreements for the cell towers. And so they want to make sure that that's reported on the face of the financial statements.
Right, I was just curious about the length of the term.
Oh, some of them are 20 to 30 years based on the agreement.
Anything else, Jason?
That's it.
Council, any questions, comments?
Thank you.
Great, you'll all be tested. Explain what, you know, GASB 87 and 96 are
All
future
right,
reading.
hey, it's a lot of fun.
Thanks, Jason. Next up is mayor and council comments tonight. I have none. How about council?
I do, and I know you're in a hurry.
I'm fine. It's being recorded.
That's true. Oh, that's true. Okay. I had a couple of things. The first one, and I don't know who needs to know this, but on my way down here tonight, coming down Spokane Street, south on Spokane Street, right where the lane to go on to I-90 East, the on-ramp, there is a pothole that just about ate the front end of my car. I didn't see it because it's dark and it's raining, but I'm sure it must be new, or there would be a lot of complaints. But so, southbound lane, right before the stoplight there. Anybody wants to get on that, that'd be great.
I will let Rob Hollis know. He
Yeah,
has the ITD contact on that.
I think it's
so-
new.
ITD already knows. Okay.
And then the other thing I wanted to really give a lot of kudos to the Parks and Recreation Department. Winterfest was awesome. Did a great job on the weather. Tracy, I know, it was wonderful, but I had quite a bit of family in town that had arrived on Friday. So I had, a dozen or more family members from other states that just were in awe of what a wonderful community event that was. So it was terribly well done, just awesome, and it's been, how long have you been doing it? Couple decades?
No more than that, about.
Well, where did you do it before we had City Hall?
We ran it at Falls Park 1 year.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say, this building, that plaza hasn't been here
We
for,
did Wheeler Park for a couple years. We kind of bounced around.
but yeah, it was wonderful. Great vendors, it just, the whole environment was very hallmarky in all the best ways. And then the other is kudos to Chief McLean and all of your people who every year with the Holiday and Heroes, because Post Falls takes a lead on that. There are so many moving parts, and talk about Hallmark movie moments, the Lutheran ladies in their quilts, but all the kids, yeah, I almost didn't do it this year, just for personal reasons, and I am so glad that I chose to do that Sunday morning, because it reminded me how much I love our police department, how much I love our community, and it's just, I hope that that event continues forever. You made a lot of kids happy. And I will tell you, I don't see anyone from the fire department in here tonight. I overheard a conversation between one of your people and one of the firefighter, actually could have been the chief, Way. The Santa Claus at Holiday and Heroes for the last few years, the Santa suit is royal law enforcement blue. And there was a firefighter that was taking exception to that. It is what it is, but I think it's Rathdrum Fire Department that provides that. But so thank you, and to everyone in your department that organizes that so enthusiastically every year.
Thank you. Any other comments? We do not need an executive
We
session
do
tonight?
not.
So the next motion is?
Adjourned?
Adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
And no.